Network. You are listening to The Rip Griffin Show. Make sure to subscribe to the show on all the major podcast platforms. Here's your host, Rip Griffin.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to this episode of The Rip Griffin Show. Tonight, we're doing something a little bit different that we've never done before. Tonight, we are doing a free agent draft. That's right. We're going to be drafting free agents, predicting where they might go, how much they might sign for, and all that great stuff on this edition of The Rip Griffin Show. Tonight, my guest, you know him as Larry the GM. He's done a lot of great insight as we've talked Astros baseball in the future, or in the past, excuse me. And coming to the show for the first time is Clint the Scout. Guys, how you doing tonight?
Great.
Doing well, thank you.
We got my buddy Clint, who also writes on LarryTheGM.com here. So we're gonna have some fun. You know, it's a lockout edition of the Rip Griffin Show. So if they're not gonna do baseball, then we're gonna make up our own games and have some fun. That's the way I look at it.
Absolutely. Clint, I'm glad you were able to take the time to come to the show. Tell us, where can everybody find you and find your work that you've been doing?
Well, you can obviously find it at LarryTheGM.com under the name Clint the Scout. I have a few articles, and Larry and I kind of merge things together at times. Larry's obviously a lot more data-driven than I am. I watch a lot of these guys and things like that, but you can find me at my my Twitter ID right there at EarlClint117. And if you're on Larry the GM, you can find our content there. And I'm excited to do this with y'all. A little nervous, but at the same time, excited. And, if y'all get a chance, just keep reading it, because Larry and I plan on pumping more stuff out. The lockout kind of slows it all down, but that gives us a chance to really grind, I guess, as you could say.
Right. There's nothing. The grind is definitely right, because it's really getting hard to come up with content, especially to write about.
Yeah.
On which I started what is called the Texas Baseball Report, which is covering everything across Texas baseball. And there's no MLB right now, there's nothing to write about, which makes it really hard. So we're working on a couple of things that I'll kind of launch at the end of the year as well. But let's kind of dive into tonight's episode. So before we get into this draft, I want to kind of touch on something that came out today, and to kind of get your thoughts on this, guys. That Carlos Correa, the Detroit Tigers had offered him a 10-year contract worth $275 million, and he turned it down. Now, why do you think he turned it down? I think I know why, but I want to hear what you guys say.
He thinks he's worth more money.
Do you think he's worth? I mean,
that's a different question. You asked why did he turn it down? He turned it around because he thinks he's worth more money, and it's going to be interesting. So the Astros have offered. What's the biggest contract the Astros have offered? 35 and 6 at 6.
Yeah, that what?
No, or is that 32 and 6? No, I'm doing what I hate when podcasters get on the air and they're not prepared. The Astros have offered him 5 years from 160. We know that one, right? And then so that's 5 at 32. Then there was a report they did 216 at 6. Wasn't that what it was?
That one I don't think ever
I
was
don't know if that's
announced.
I don't know if that's actually an official one or not, right? So we know the Astros will go 5 years. I think they could probably be talked into 6. And then, but so yeah, but then 32 seems like the number he wants from an AAV standpoint, or close to that, right? So the Astros gave him the AAV he wants, the average annual value, the average contract, average pay he wants, but they only gave it for 5 years. Detroit gave him the 10 years he wants, but they're not going to go to 32, or they, at least their initial offer was not at 32. So somewhere in between there, maybe the answer is going to be you're going to get 8 years and you're going to get 30, right? And that's what Carlos is going to have to realize, that he is going to be at a discount to Seager because of the known back issues that he has. So
Right.
I don't know. That's the way I look at it. Clint, what do you think?
Well, personally, I think a lot of this is based on the Lindor deal that was done last year with the Mets, or 2 years, maybe it was 2 years ago, the 341 for 10 years. And then basing it off of what Seager has gotten. Now, you can make an argument either way, talent wise. I know
Right.
both guys profile as very highly talented, highly sought after players. But, at the end of the day, it's kind of surprising because Seager has also had a very kind of injury prone career as
Right.
well. So I don't think Carlos is going to have an issue getting the 32 and a half. I do have a bit of a prediction, kind of an idea of what I think is going to happen.
go.
I don't want to spoil it for anybody.
Well, you got the
Maybe we
first
could
pick
talk
in the
about
draft,
it after
man,
the
so-
draft. Well, yeah. And so, it's just kind of one of those things that a lot of this market is going to be driven. I think once we get Trevor Story down, I don't think
Yeah.
Carlos signs before him. I think that's going to be the huge benchmark that's going to set his value. And I actually think what it's going to do is it's going to push a lot of other teams into the mix that they didn't quite realize were in it until Trevor Story's off the board.
Until there's no other option, no other premium option. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So, but it's just interesting. That's just something that came about today. It's kind of weird that we're getting this news during this lockout, and all this stuff. It's, I mean, MLB's supposedly and the Players Association are not supposed to be coming back together until after the first of the year. So, we don't know what they're doing, but yet there's news that's coming out as far as, contracts that were offered and whatnot. So
It's almost like the owners really don't want to be locked out.
yeah. It's just,
in
it's
hindsight, the lockout really does work in the players' favor in terms of urgency, because the longer this takes, the harder it's going to be, because everybody's going to want prep time and spring training and doing all that. And, it's going to work in their benefit. Now, we'll see how the CBA talk works out. I know Larry's been on that one pretty hard. So this is definitely going to get interesting the longer it goes.
Yeah,
Right.
I just think the whole lockout is kind of ludicrous, because the whole purpose, the whole like official line relative to the lockout is like, well, this will force us to come to the table. Well, since they're locked out, they haven't spent a minute at the negotiating table that I'm aware of. So it's like, well, that didn't work. You were at the negotiating table, and then you locked people out, and then nobody's been at the negotiating table. So it's pretty frustrating. And guys, I lived through the 81 strike and the 94-95 strike, and I really don't want my favorite sport to go back to those days. But I think we're already in it basically with the lockout. So
yeah, it's unfortunate, but so that's about it for the news as far as baseball news is concerned. So let's jump into this draft. This is going to be fun because, like I said, this is not something that we've never done before. We're going to see where these free agents, where they might go, how much they might be offered contracts and whatnot. So what we got here, we got a little spreadsheet that we're going to put up here and for everybody to kind of follow here at home. that is that's watching the show. So, or if you're listening as well. But okay, so this is kind of how it's going to work. So, on this spreadsheet that we've got. So, for an example, and Larry, if I'm
Rip,
butchering,
do you want me to talk through it? I mean, I
yeah,
can talk through it.
yeah, this
So-
go ahead. So, tell everybody how this is going to work for us.
Yeah, so this is something Rip and I talked about, but earlier on in the calendar, and we just, there was a flurry of free agent activity that got away with it, got done before we could even get to the draft. So what we're doing is we're going to take the pool of the pool of free agents that are available according to Fangraphs free agent tracker. Okay. And what the way the rules are going to work here, and I put Marcus Simeon up as the example. So if Clint's going to go first, I'm going to go second, and then Rip's going to go third, and then we'll snake it back through 3 rounds of the draft. That's what's down in the lower part of the spreadsheet. So we have Marcus Simeon as an example. So Marcus Simeon signed with the Rangers for a total contract value of $175,000, $175 million. So 25 for 7 years. So if Clint, for say, had picked Marcus Simeon very first, and he said, "Hey, I think Marcus Simeon's going to get 7 years," which nobody thought he was going to get 7 years, or at least nobody I knew that thought he was going to get 7 years, and he's going to get 25 million a year. So the number is 175. If the picker picks the player and the team gets it right and gets the contract right, they'll get double the points. So that genius pick would have been 350 points. Okay, so if I had picked Marcus Simeon and said, well, I think he's going to get 6 years at 25, so 150, then because I got the player and the team right, you get the 150 points. You get the higher the minimum value. You don't get the last 25. You get the 150 points. Then if you pick the player and the team right, and we had said 8 years at 25, 200, you would get the 175 points. So whatever you get, the lower of the amount of either what you pick. So there's no real penalty for picking over the contract value, unless you're just trying to nail it. So if you're gonna go big, go over it, because you'll get credit for getting whatever the contract was. Okay, so but here's where the maybe the issue not to go over, right? So if we had picked Marcus Simeon to go to Detroit for 175, well, then you get no positive points. You just get 0, because you would have been a genius in getting the contract right, the contract value right. But if you made the contract 200 to Detroit, then you're going to lose 25 points. So one of the interesting dynamics, I don't know if you guys have thought about this, that's some of the thinking I've had, going for the big players in this, it does have a little bit of risk, right? Because if you go big, and let's say Marcus Simeon at the end of the market had not gotten the 7-year contract, but had gotten a 1-year contract, and you got the wrong team, you're probably not going to win the draft, because one player could ruin you. So if Carlos Correa ends up at the end of this saying, "Oh, forget it, I'll come back next year, I'll sign a 1-year prove it deal that my back's really good," and you put in something like 300 million for Correa, and you said he was going to the Yankees for 300 million, and he ends up coming back to the Astros for 1 year and a prove it deal for 35 million, then you're going to lose 265 points. So there's the risk. It's a risk reward system. It's like, I mean, you could play it safe and go with a bunch of small contracts and try and hope that, I could pick that route and just hope you guys screw it up so bad that my 0 points or my near 0 points are the winning score by the time we're done, or somebody could go with big contracts for the whole rest of every one of their picks. So we chose 3 rounds because, quite honestly, there's not that many players that I thought we would probably lose interest after 3 rounds. So that's that's my intro, Rip. Did I miss anything kind of in describing that, the way I described it to you guys?
No, everything sounds pretty self-explanatory. Excuse me.
Okay. So we're picking the player. Clint's going to go first. He's going to pick a player. He's going to pick a team that player is going to sign with, and then he's going to say what the total contract value will be. And it doesn't matter, like if it was 9 years or 8 years. He's taking the total number.
Okay. Well,
And I will either Rip. I'll keep track of the scores, or you may want to do it too, so people can see it live. But I'll make sure we have a record of this.
Yeah, so I should be able to
You
type
got
it
it?
in. Yeah, I should be able
Okay.
to do that. So of
Okay.
course we won't know the actual score until the player
Right.
actually
That's right.
signs.
We're going to have to come back, and we have to make remember Keuchel didn't get signed a couple years ago till like June, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's basically possible we won't know the results of this until the last player picked actually signs.
So I just with my picks, I've kind of thought a few of them out. Maybe as far as where they go and things like that. Is it okay? Y'all mind if I throw in why? Well,
Yeah.
what my basis is. Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I think we all want to kind of maybe even me and Clint. If you make a stupid pick, we're gonna rag on you. So
That's fine. I don't proclaim to be a
no,
GM.
I'm just
I'm
playing.
sitting here like, how much fun can we have?
Exactly. That's what this is. I mean, we can't have it. We can't have real baseball fun, so we're gonna have makeup baseball fun.
Right,
Yes, sir.
exactly.
All right, I've got my list of players. Clint, you got your list. You're number one on the clock, Clint. What are you gonna do?
Okay.
So just real quick. So this works like a real draft. So once that player's off the board, nobody else can draft him. So or not or even draft him. So technically, so okay. All right, Clint. So who is your? This is your 1-1, as they call it in Major League Baseball. Your first round pick.
Okay. Well,
No pressure.
I know I kind of teased the Carlos Correa prediction, but I have one that I feel pretty good about. I know it's going to sound pretty off the map whenever I say this, but I'm actually going to take Chris Bryant to the Kansas City Royals for $132 million. And my basis to that is with Bobby Witt Jr. and a lot of the younger talent that Kansas City is working with and developing. I believe they would bring in Chris Bryant to be a veteran presence and infield outfielder type player that kind of molds or fits the mold of what the Royals have in terms of young players that are versatile and all over the place. And I know they have a young shortstop, and I think that they take the leap, bring in a veteran like Chris Bryant, someone who's proven, obviously a World Series champion, and help lead them into what they're hoping will be another championship window.
And how much did you say, Clint?
I had him at 132 million total.
132. Okay.
Well,
I will tell you
that negative there. So
yeah, it'll say negative because the teams aren't equal yet. So, Rick, what did you have Chris Bryant on your list?
I did.
What did you have?
So I had him going to Seattle.
I did too. For
$175 million.
Oh, I had 125. I had him going to Seattle. I had 125. So, well, we'll get. I'll explain a little bit of what my theory is. You may see as we play out. All right. So, I am not taking Correa either. I'm gonna go with Freddie Freeman to the Braves for 160. And so I will tell you my confidence in this pick is wavered a little. I mean, if we'd done this draft, Rip, if we'd done this draft a month ago, I think I still would have gone with Freddie Freeman to the Braves. I don't know if I would have said 160 like I just did. I might have made a bigger number, but Freddie Freeman to the Braves would have been like my biggest lock going into the offseason. I'll tell you, there's been some reports that say he may not end up with the Braves, but that's what I thought. I honestly think Freddie Freeman to the Braves is the safest pick on the entire board. So that's why I went Freddie Freeman to the Braves.
Oh, how much do you have him going for?
160.
160.
So like 30, basically the Correa offer, like 5 years at 32 is what I'm thinking.
Okay. So, I mean, I think that's probably the safest bet also. I mean, if the Braves don't re-sign him, then what are they doing over there? You know?
They're gonna get it. They better get somebody else that's on the list if they don't get Freddie Freeman. So
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm kind of nervous because you guys passed on Correa.
Yep.
And if traditionally, if a team passes on a player and he continues to fall in the draft, then there must be something wrong. So
you've got 2 picks.
I do. Yes.
So you got 2 of your 3 picks are coming right here, Rip. So if you don't take them in these 2 picks, you may not get them.
This is true. This is true. But, I don't think I can take Correa in the first round.
All
so,
right.
I'm going to throw you guys a little curveball here. I'm going to say Clayton Kershaw.
Oh, he's on my list too.
Goes to the Rangers for, let's see, I want to say $95 million.
95. You're thinking 3 years, 3-year deal?
At least.
Okay. So I had thought about Kershaw. I actually had him going to the Dodgers. Back to the Dodgers. But I had read, so Kershaw was actually number 2 on my list until I read okay, well, the Rangers are probably pretty serious about this. And that's why he dropped down to 3 on my list. Bryant was 4, by the way. And so I think the Rangers may be the right, because the Rangers got to get some pitching, right? So that's they may go for Kershaw, but I think if the Rangers go for Kershaw, they need to get somebody else too, and because they I don't know if they can really well, I think the Rangers have to decide, are they in it, are they going for it, or are they not going for it? So
yeah, no,
I'm dominating the conversation analyzing the picks, but I am Larry the GM, so what would you expect?
So Clint, what do you think about the possibility of these first round picks, especially with Freeman and Kershaw? What are your thoughts on those?
Well, I had Freddie Freeman on my list too, and I had him going back to Atlanta on a $120 million deal. I had it 4 at 30. I was thinking he might go a little more short term, but I know that for someone like him, as he gets a little older, the AL appeal is there. But I still think he's going to stay loyal to the Braves and want to be back. I am a little surprised that we went Rangers with Kershaw. I honestly saw Kershaw going back to the Dodgers, maybe on a friendlier deal, just because that's it's home for him now. But the Dodgers have to make a lot of room for a lot of different things. I know they have a lot of young starting pitching. They're going to get Dusty May and a few other guys, and I forget what his name is. Is it Gonzalez song that they were kind of mixing in the later half of this? Yeah, and so they're going to be looking and but we also forget they do have a hole to fill. The Trevor Bauer situation is obviously nowhere near resolved, and so the Dodgers always come to play with money. So I'm sure that they'll be making a splash somewhere.
I'm curious about what did you have for Kershaw as your number? As
my number, I only had him on a 2-year deal at $16 million.
You had 60. I actually, well, maybe I shouldn't say, but maybe I'm starting to signal some of these numbers. I had him at 50.
Yeah, and I kind of went that route just because pedigree and history and everything like that. So
right. Yeah, I think Kershaw may be a little disappointed in his market coming out of the lockout. And the only thing that can help that is if, like, the physical, the reports about his physical status are really good. I think there's going to be, depending on, and this is where it's going to be interesting about how long the lockout lasts. This is maybe another theme to think about, Rip, right? So how late will this lockout last, and when will we be doing this? I think there's going to be like 2-week free agent flurry happening, and there's going to be 2 weeks to sign free agents, and then they're going into spring training, right? And so,
Right.
I think Kershaw may be disappointed that he's not going to be the first pitcher sought out during those 2 weeks, and he may be at week day 13 or 14 looking for a deal.
Right. I mean, especially when looking at this free agent, class right here. I mean, there's a lot. There's a few pitchers. There's probably one that's maybe ahead of him, a little bit younger, maybe might get a little bit more money possibly. But yeah, I think Kershaw wants to come home and finish out his career. So
so I will say this. I think, Clint and I said Dodgers, and we both were thinking 2-year deal. I think the Rangers get him with a 3-year deal, and I think so. If he does go to the Rangers, I think your 95 number is actually a pretty good answer. I think it's going to have to be something like that for him to end up at the Rangers, is what I guess what I'm trying to say. So if you're all in with the Rangers, I think that's a good choice. I think it'll be a 3-year deal with the Rangers.
I think so too. I think the Rangers they're going to spend the money and they want to compete in the West. So it's kind of exciting. We'll kind of see what goes on. So
round 1 is down. What do you got for round 2, Rip?
Okay, so I'm going to take the big name off the board, Carlos Correa.
I'm glad. I didn't want Correa.
So here's my thought. So I think he goes to the Dodgers.
Okay.
And I'm still going to stick with my number that I've been very adamant about, and that's the $280 million that he's going to get. Now, of course, it's going to be years attached onto that, but I think with the number of years that he gets, is going to surpass Francisco Lindor. And I think it's going to be 8 years. 8 years at $280 million.
Okay.
Because the Dodgers have lost Seager, so he's gone. They need somebody. Or they've got Trey Turner, you can slot Trey Turner kind of at second base, but they're going to need a big time bat in the middle of that lineup. So I think he goes out west to the Dodgers.
Okay. This is why I didn't want to pick Carlos Correa, because I mean, there's I can make a compelling argument for 4 different places. Clint, if you had to pick Correa, where were you going to put him?
Well, I was if he had fallen to me at this point, I would have probably been very bold. I actually have it locked down to 2 places. I had him at the Dodgers, and the reason being is they obviously need another interior. They need a shortstop, and they could slot Trey Turner in at second. I know that they have a lot of younger talent and things like that, but I can see the Dodgers spending that money, especially since their pitching has, Scherzer's gone, the Bauer situation, everything else like that. I had him at a $231 million deal, but I only had it at 7 years. I did not think that anybody is going to give him 10, and I'm pretty certain. In my gut, I don't feel like they will. And then my dark horse, and I might be completely off the map when I say this, is the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah,
that's
one of the 4 teams I had for him too.
Yeah, and I had them upping the ante to $245 million over 7 years. I had them going all the way to 35, breaking the Lindor AAV, and letting him play shortstop every day.
So I had Correa going to the Angels, and I had it at 300. The Angels overpay, and I don't know if that basically I think Correa wants the 300 number. So I think the Angels say we'll give you the 300 number and we'll make that over 9 years and to make it happen. So I think the Angels are in the mix. I still think there's a possibility of the Tigers in the mix. The Dodgers are in the mix. Phillies are in the mix, and our Astros are. I think the Astros are in the mix, but I could see them going to 7, but I think you guys probably both read the article I did about Who Am I, where I told essentially had the story of Christian Yelich in there, and what happened to him shortly after he signed the big extension. And Christian Yelich is, he may have come back, but he's been somewhat a shell of what he was when he signed the extension, and the Brewers are not, Brewers are hurting from that. So I just think Jim Crane doesn't want to sign a deal that's 7 years or more, and so that just kind of makes it almost impossible to get Correa. So, all right, interesting choice there, Rip.
Let's see if it pays off.
So this is interesting. So now I have a choice, because now I have to decide: am I going to play small ball or try to hit at least a double here? I am going to say that Jim Crane hits a major PR disaster after Correa goes to the Dodgers, as you said, or wherever he ends up. And he goes and gets Trevor Story. So Trevor Story to the Astros for $130.
Wow. Okay.
5 years at $26 million.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. That's less than probably what a lot of the other news outlets are predicting if he were to go. Because let's see, what does Fangraphs have him right now? So they've got him at, median is 6 years, 150 million. So you're definitely under that.
I'm saying that the Astros stick to their guns and say, no, you come in here for 5 years and 26. So that, I think that's, so that, Fangraphs is saying 6 years at 25. I'm just saying 5 years at 26. So,
right.
And the thing is, I mean, the problem with this theory is if Correa ends up in the Dodgers, I think the Angels could go make that deal for Story and give him 6 years. So I'm playing the doubles game here, but I don't know. I should have gone small ball, because I'm really confident in Freddie Freeman to the Braves. That may be the only one any of us get right, and that would win the draft just because of Freddie Freeman, right? But we'll go Trevor Story to the Astros from 130, and it'll be interesting what the Astros fan base would respond to that. I think I'd have to be retweeting my article of the comparison of Trevor Story to Carlos Correa every day for 3 weeks, just to make the fan base a little happier about it.
Absolutely. So, Clint, did you have Trevor Story at all?
I don't have him on my list, so I don't really. I was trying to. I only wanted one shortstop on my list, and that was Correa. So I don't know, but I assume that what would end up happening is he would sign first, and I had a feeling it would be the Phillies.
Yeah.
A lot of the reasons why I was kind of keeping them as a dark horse was Correa, is that they would get back into a corner in terms of what they wanted to do. And I know the Phillies would make a splash. That's what they do. And a lot of people, I know as a baseball fan, it's a big market, and that's definitely something that they would look at as terms of, firing up the fan base. and getting everybody to believe that they're all in. So I definitely can see. I can see Jim. I don't know if Jim Crane will do that, but I also know personally I'm a little bit higher on what the Astros are doing internally with Jeremy Pena. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of just I'm waiting to see. This is going to be very interesting.
So it's interesting because I think Jim Crane will do that. I don't think the general manager. I don't think James Click is like. I think James Click is saying we're going to ride with Jeremy Pena for what you and I wrote about, Clint. Like this Jeremy Pena kid is good. We're going to ride with the former Rays front office guy. He's like we'll ride with the young guy. And okay, maybe we'll sign Anderson Simmons for a year to bridge but I just think Jim Crane is going to say no. We're all in. We're gonna go get Trevor Story. What did you have, Rip, for Trevor Story?
So I had Trevor Story going to the Astros as well for 6 at 140.
Okay.
So that's right. That's a little bit under what is the AAV is kind of set at him at around 23 million. So little bit on the high side for Story, but it's definitely interesting though.
So if I get Trevor Story and Freddie Freeman, those two teams, right, you guys are in trouble. You better hope that Carlos Correa goes to the Dodgers, and then you're going to be hated in the fan base for predicting Carlos Correa to the Dodgers.
Right.
It'll be your fault, Rip.
I set the jinx, so hopefully not. We'll see what happens. So Clint, who do you got with your pick here in the second round?
I'm going back to back, so I can really simplify this.
Yeah.
There's kind of a lot of what I'm doing and a lot of my picks are gut visual, type thing. So I believe that this is actually a very good fit. I have Carlos Rodon going to the Toronto Blue Jays at $95 million. I believe the loss of Robbie Ray, and then the fact that they have a great core. And I think they're going to be looking for an arm to put in the rotation and get in there and compete in that AL West. And I think Rodon kind of fits their moxie, so to speak, with Manoah and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting though. It's going to have him and Ryu, two multiple lefties, but it worked out for them last year, and I think he fits the personality a little bit.
Okay, I like it. It's a good pick. I think the Blue Jays are onto something with especially their rotation, and they added Kevin Gossman to the mix as well. I mean, you still got your core infield is with Vlad Jr., Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio, those guys there. So the Blue Jays are definitely wanting to contend there in the AL East. Excuse me. So I like the pick. Rodon to the Blue Jays. It fits.
So are you thinking 5 years at like 19?
I'm thinking 5 at 19.
Wow. So I didn't have Rodon on my list just because I'm so Clint, I think this is a big gamble in my view, because I'm not sure Rodon gets I'm not sure he gets 3 years. I think because with the injury history. So
my big thing about it is just the market itself and then looking at it in terms of
he's like the premium pitcher available, right? And so
in a lot of ways, yes. In my opinion, he's one of the top 3 to 5, and he's got a ton of upside. We've seen it in his arm; it's alive, and he can bring it. And part of me is kind of in that feeling where it may benefit him to be somewhere with a little bit of leadership that he would get with the Blue Jays, because they've got a great mix of veterans and young guys. And I think that they would be able to develop him kind of similar to what a Robbie Ray was and what they were able to do. Obviously, it's two different profiles, though. So they'll be looking to turn that high fastball and mix that off speed in really well. And I think the flashes were there, and I just for some reason my gut is telling me they would give him 5 years, and I may be a little high. I just worry that the market itself, comparing it to what Lance McCullers went for, and seeing all that, I kind of based it off of, well, the Blue Jays are going to want to do something, and I believe that he can. And maybe he's not 95, but I believe he'll be pretty close.
Okay, well, good. All right, what else? What did you have for Rodon, Rip?
Actually, I did not have him on my list.
I think we were both scared of the injury risk and how many years.
Yeah, I don't. I just had to stay away from Carlos Rodon on that one. So too risky.
All right, what do you got, Clint?
So kicking off round 3.
Well, I've got quite a few names left on my list. I'm trying to decide if I want to go small here, if I want to. Yeah. I feel like I've kind of ridden that line pretty well until Rip put that $280 million up in front of all of us, and man,
Rip's going big or going home. That's what it is.
That's right. You got to.
I will probably be very wrong on this, but I have Michael Conforto to the San Francisco Giants. I believe that they're going to be looking to try and retool and get that roster back into contention again. And I have him at $85 million.
Wow!
So y'all can bring it to me and put and let me know how bad I did on that one, but something about it just kind of fits. He's kind of what they're looking for and need, and I think he would fit really well in that outfield.
And you said the Giants?
The Giants.
And what was your
$85 million?
85. Okay. All right. I got confused. I thought I misspelled his name, so I was trying to figure it out real quick. So sorry. But okay, yeah. I mean, so are you thinking that?
I think it's a 5-year deal at $17 million. I'm sure what I'm doing is kind of overvaluing a few of these guys based off of Larry's metrics, but a lot of mine is based off the lockout itself. I think that some things get put into urgency, and I think some guys are going to get shorter deals with a little bit higher, the AAV to complement that. I think baseball is starting to see a trend of, we're not going 8-10 years. We're not doing that anymore. And, it's similar to what happens in pro football, even though I don't want to bring it up with running backs and everything else. Those guys they don't get long-term deals. It's an exception, and so I can see AAVs going up, shorter deals, based on shorter deals. And for some reason, Michael Conforto of the Giants just fit in my eye and in my gut. So that's what I did. All these are gut picks. So.
Okay. I like it.
I had Conforto as the 12th player on my 14-player list. And did you have Conforto, Rip?
No, I did not.
So Conforto, I think he got the qualifying offer and declined it, right? Is that right?
Let me see here. I can look it up real quick.
So this is why I think I dropped him down to 12 on my list, because I don't understand.
As of November 8th, I have him on MLB rumors. He is to reject the qualifying offer.
Yeah, and so I saw that and I was like, I don't understand
why.
Yeah, because okay, I'll tell you where I had Conforto going to the Brewers for 2 years at $12 million a year, and so I have him for 24. That's where I have him set, and oh my gosh, so clearly Larry the GM does not understand the value of Michael Conforto, because I don't know. So one of the things, if you go back and read the offseason guide and the deals, Clint, what was I getting wrong? I nailed almost all the deals AAV value, but every single deal I was 1 year short, 1 year short, 1 year short, and so I'm afraid that that's going to be consistent with what I'm doing right now. I keep seeing teams, and a lot of this plays out in the CBA article. Like 75% of the deals are 4 years or less, and I just I don't know. Man, I can't imagine giving Michael Conforto 5 years. Maybe 3, but so that'll be cool if it happens.
Yeah, and it's to me it's one of those things where I think the name and the upside itself. I mean, he was a talented guy. He was a first round draft pick. He had a lot of that going for him. I know, and obviously he's performed well at times. I think that the profile may not quite be representing the results that you see on the field, but like I said, I think that as the market starts to dwindle, I think a lot of these guys will have a little more leverage. So I just thought 5 years would fit him. It's, he's 28, going to be 29, so that won't necessarily put them in a bad situation. And he is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he is one of the younger free agents on the market. So
right now he's at age 29. So
yeah.
I have 28 and 290 days. So yeah, right there. Yeah.
So yeah, he's yeah. I
Okay.
mean, looking at Rodon too. Yeah, he's at age 29. So yeah. All right, Larry. So who do you got for your?
Okay, so I've got one that it would be. I have held off from picking the second player on my list.
Oh,
and
okay.
The second player on my list would be the small ball, and I'll tell you, and the fifth player. So if I was going to go small ball, my second and fifth player fit that profile, but I'm not going there. I'm going down the list to my number 6, and I'm going Nick Castellanos. How do you say it?
Castellanos.
Castellanos. Thank you. Castellanos, and I'm taking him to the Phillies because the Phillies need outfield help for 72. I originally had 90, but I just pulled a year off his contract, so we'll go 72. 72 to the Phillies. And
you took him off. You took him off my board. So
what did you have for Nick?
I had him going to the Phillies as well, but at 75.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
So I had them overpaying just a little bit.
Well, and I'm not sure that it is overpaying. I'm just giving. I think one thing I'm gonna have to deal with after when we close the books on the free agent deals is it seems like every free agent is getting a year more than I think they're gonna get. Basically,
right.
So whatever Larry the GM says they're gonna get in years, add one to it, and then take the AAV I'm talking about, and you're gonna get you're gonna get close to the right answer. That's just the way it's been every deal. Like, yeah, I had the right AAV, but I didn't have the right years. So that's so. Okay, I'll tell you what my small balls were after you're done, Rib.
Okay. All right. So for my last pick here, I'm going safe. I'm going very small ball here. I'm going very money ball as well. So I have Jonathan Villar going to the Astros.
Really?
For $20 million. Okay.
So that's your that's the Astros answer to not having a real shortstop, is
right,
or not having a proven shortstop.
So basically, he's going to be a stopgap before Jeremy Pena gets there. Yeah.
Now, remind me, guys, the Villar has he proven to be able to play the outfield as well?
I think he has the ability to.
Okay. Because I know he could play. I mean, he's played some second, hasn't he, Clint? And I think he's played
second and shortstop. Yeah. Okay. I know for sure those two positions.
It's not a bad option for the Astros. Yeah, it's not a bad option for the Astros to go.
So are you thinking that's a 2-year deal, or is that a 1-year? I'm thinking
2 years.
2
Well,
years.
it
Okay, that's
it
right.
could be like the Verlander deal, like it's 1 year plus an option, right?
Yeah.
But for our scoring, that option year counts as in the deal, right? And so it's the
Right.
20 million contract. Okay.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that's what I think. I think that they'll play the money ball, the safe bet. I mean, as a stopgap until Jeremy Pena is ready.
Yeah, I think the other option there would be Andrelton Simmons for 1 year for 8.
Right.
Yeah, and that's possible too. And then but the only thing is I think the advantage Villar has is has a little more history of position flexibility than Simmons does. Simmons is clearly a better fielder.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. All right. So what players did you guys have that didn't get picked?
So I had Anthony Rizzo.
Where'd you have Rizzo going?
I still have him going back to the Yankees at 2 years at 40.
Okay. I had Rizzo going back to the Yankees 3 years at 15.
Okay. Seiya Suzuki. So he's not on the free agent list, but
that was number 2 on the Larry the GM list. Where'd you have him going?
So I've got him going to the Athletics.
Okay. So this is I had him going to the Rangers. I think he's going to be a Ranger. And the reason he was number 2 on my list is I just don't think the Athletics are spending any money, period. Just like full stop. So the real question for me is Suzuki going to the Rangers or is he going to the Giants? Because the Giants need outfield help too. And so I had him at 55. 5 for 11 is what I saw as the deal. What did you have, Brett?
So I had him, for 5 at 50. So
okay,
yeah, 10 million. So keep it cheap.
Did you have Suzuki?
I did not.
Okay.
No, sir. My small ball picks are a little interesting.
What name one do you have, Clint?
Name one. Okay, so I can go really off the map and kind of. This is an act, and I found it very interesting because I watched a little bit of him, and I had. Let me, and correct me if I'm wrong if I don't have that correct as far as his actual status. But I actually had. I don't know if y'all have heard of Jacob Junis.
No.
Relief pitcher for the Kansas City Royals. I actually had him signing with the Astros on a 2-year deal worth $5 million. Yes.
I need to know more about him. Let's talk about him.
My basis for that is
we'll
really
have a staff meeting about him. Okay, we got to have a staff meeting on this guy.
Yeah. No, and like I said, I've been working on a few different things and kind of just looking him over, and one of the things that interests me is he's a slider specialist. I mean, he throws it 40% of the time. It gives me a very strong Phil Maton-esque vibe. He's good with it. His fastball's not he's not as good with location on the fastball, but he definitely kind of struck me as one of those low risk upside guys that they could work with, and I still am trying to compile more data and get more of an understanding of spin rate and things like that. It's very limited on what I'm looking at. I always use Baseball Savant as one of my favorite sites to pull a lot of that data. But he's kind of, in all honesty, it's kind of a junky pick, just because when you look at those statistics, he's very low percentile on fastball spin, curve spin, and everything. So it would definitely be a kind of a work in progress type thing. But for some reason, I saw him and I was like, I think they could make something of it if they were to let him work on it, and it would be a very cost effective thing. And one of the things that the Astros are always sometimes need are just innings, and he could go in and slot in an inning or two and do that. So that was one of them. I have another one. This one is a little bit bigger, but I had Eddie Rosario going to the Oakland Athletics.
Really?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I know that they lost Canna, and they're kind of, I don't necessarily think it's going to be an interesting year for them, losing Bob Melvin, losing some of those guys, and I think that I had Rosario going there at at 20 million, 22 and a half. I kind of maybe overshot what he was going to be worth, but it was a 3-year deal.
Oh wow.
Okay.
And that was just an interesting pick to me. It kind of stood out because I know that they're going to be looking for someone who can play outfield, and then he's a left-handed bat that he showed he had a good postseason. I mean, he obviously performed well in those things, and I think he can ride that to get that 7.5 over 3 years.
So Rosario was number 5 on my list. The other one I bypassed, and I had him going back to the Braves, and at 2 at 10, back to the Braves. And so one of the questions that I have for the Braves, so this is where there's a whole bunch of factors that work into like why would they get Rosario back there. So if there's a DH in the National League, I could see that Rosario may be a Braves flex option outfielder / DH for them. And plus I think so under the scenario where the Braves don't sign Freeman, they better go get Rosario so they can have the public relations. It's smooth over the public relations disaster of losing Freddie Freeman, right? It's
Right. Exactly.
So okay, well we'll bring back the MVP or the playoff MVP that carried us so much to the World Series. So that's what I thought about Rosario, and I think what the Braves end up doing is going to be really interesting with all the players they acquired. They can't go get them. They don't have really a spot for all of them with the injuries that they had, right? That are going to be healed. So it's really interesting. So I basically picked. Well, they're going to bring back Freeman and Rosario. That's the choice I made for them. So
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely.
What other one did you have, Rip?
So, of course, I had Kyle Schwarber going back to the Red Sox.
Huh.
So, yeah, I don't foresee that being a relatively long deal. Somewhere around, maybe 3 years. We'll give it maybe 35 million, 40 million.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
kind of in that range there.
So I need to admit my shame here. Jacob Junis is not a free agent. I got a little confused on the list.
Okay.
He's still in arbitration with the Royals through 2024.
Okay. Well, let's
So
go trade for him then.
That ruins that. I can go to another one. And I'm afraid to pick any of these guys. They may not be free agents, but no, I'm just kidding. The other one I had, and I thought this was going to be an interesting one, because I know that the Red Sox are losing Ottavino, and they might be looking to make an interesting move. And I had them actually signing Carlos Martinez.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, I thought maybe they'd be looking for a high octane guy that they could throw out there. Carlos Martinez always kind of runs a little hot, and I thought he would kind of fit that, that clubhouse, and he can bring it. I don't believe he will be a starter. I believe that is over with. But I could see him being a reliever, and maybe they look at, developing him as, I would say the setup guy, but I really think he has the ability to close games and do that for them. So that was one I just really kind of saw from a personality need, things like that. So, and I'm fairly confident he's pretty sure he's a free agent.
Well, yeah, Clint, yeah. Keep Carlos Martinez on your radar, because it's interesting to me. Like his numbers, his performance in 20 and 21, it has just been blah. But he was a really good pitcher before that, and both starting and relief roles. So I at one time when I wrote the offseason guide, I actually considered him as like would the Astros take a flyer on him and put him in the bullpen and let Brett Strom do his magic. Of course, now Brett's not here, but I think it's really it's a really. I mean, he may have to do like a 1 year prove it deal to really.
Yeah, I only had him at a 2-year deal for $15 million.
Yeah,
I figured he's going to have to do a lot of work to,
get what we really want. Yeah. So along those lines, what about Jansen? Yeah, who's going to sign Jansen? I had him going to the Blue Jays, 2 years, $25 million. I mean, the obvious pick would send him back to the Dodgers would sign him, but I think the Blue Jays are going to covet a experienced relief pitcher for the Blue Jays bullpen. I could see them kind of outbidding the Dodgers and getting Jansen.
I think he's one that will actually return back to the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think that's possible.
I mean, Fangraphs has got him at 2 years at $24 million. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they'll probably try to get a discount out of him. The 2 years sounds right, maybe about $20 million. So that'll put it about $10 million per year. So, but I see him going back to the Dodgers.
Okay. What else did you guys have?
So my last one was Kyle Seager.
Yeah, where did you have Kyle Seager going?
I had him going to the Yankees.
Okay. I had him going to the Blue Jays too.
Okay.
What kind of deal did you have for him?
I had him at 3 years, $36 million.
I had him at 2 years at 24. Same
okay.
AAV. Yeah. So yeah, the Yankees. So I had Rizzo going to the Yankees or back to the Yankees. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, would they also get Seager if Rizzo goes back there? I don't know. So the last two I have is Pham going to the Giants for 2 years, $10 million a year, and just because the Giants are going to need an outfielder, and if they don't get any of the premium ones, I kind of saw them falling back. So my worry card with my pick in the third round is that the Giants could go get Castellanos too. So
right,
so I'm just banking on that the Phillies are outbidding them. Maybe that's why I should have gone back to my 90. That's why I said he was going to get 90, because the Phillies went to 5 years versus everybody else's 4. So and then anybody that's read the offseason guide or just follow me on Twitter knows what my last pick is. For the bullpen for the Astros, who do I want? Andrew Chafin, 2 years, $5 million a year. Get us Andrew Chafin. If I were in the Astros front office, every single day I'd be sending an email. Can we sign Andrew Chafin, please?
He would definitely poster.
I was in the Astros front office. Get Andrew Chafin.
We're gonna fly a banner over Minute Maid Park that says "Sign Andrew Chafin."
Well, that's who
I guess we could start the hashtag.
Yeah.
There we go.
Definitely get that rolling. I mean, he profiles well. Yeah.
Officially endorsed by LarryTheGM.com. Sign Andrew Chafin. So what did y'all think?
So yeah, I mean that was fun. A lot of some of our numbers were there. I threw out the oddball and the max deal for throw Correa out there. So hopefully it'll pay off for me. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So, but it's been fun, guys. We're about out of time for this episode here. We're gonna have to get back together when the lockout ends and these free agents come off the board and see how well we did. If we are spot on or if we are just completely way off. You never know what's going to happen. So, but guys, I appreciate it. Great job. Thanks for coming on and doing this. It was fun and something that we can talk about that's still baseball related, even though we're in a time where there's nothing being talked about. So, but Clint, tell everybody where they can find you at real quick.
You can find me on Twitter at EarlClint117, and then obviously LarryTheGM.com. pushing out content. We are working on things. Lockout obviously kind of slows us down a little bit, but we've been talking about a few different series, a few different things we want to get out in front of everybody, and that's all in the works. As you can tell, I pulled a name like Jacob Junis out of nowhere, so I'm watching and I'm looking for guys and kind of scouting, guys that might fit what the Astros do and how they do things. And so, but give us a read, and obviously, thank you, Rip, for having me on. It's a pleasure and an honor. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, it's great. We'll definitely talk some more. Larry, where's everybody can find you at?
You can find me on Twitter at LarryTheGM, and find me at LarryTheGM.com. And as Clint said, we're working on things. So I do have a question for folks, and they can get back to us on at LarryTheGM or at LarryTheGM on Twitter. So I'm thinking about, so Larry retires at the end of this year from my real job. So let the Astros know I'm available. But I am thinking about putting a shortened version of the off-season guide I did for the Astros. Number one, updating that as we approach the end of the lockout. But then through the month of January, when I think there's still not going to be baseball, there's going to be squabbling over contract, is to put out a guide for every one of the other teams and what do they need, what are their strengths, weaknesses, what do they need, and the thought is, if we do a good job of that, it should be something we can keep updated through the year, and really be something we can have on the Larry the GM website. That like when the Astros go into a series with the White Sox, we can have the updated guide and say, hey, here we face the White Sox. Here's what the guide said for the White Sox as we play them. So that's what I'm thinking about doing. It's a ton of work, but I'm going to be retired, so what the hell.
Well, we'll definitely be looking for it. We'll definitely put it out there, and we'll continue to talk baseball during this time when we have no baseball. But that's it for this episode, guys. Remember, you can find the show on Twitter at Rip Griffin Show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, where you can click on the little red button there that is flashing there on the screen. Subscribe so you can be alerted when there's going to be a new episode. If you have a question, you can call into the show hotline. That number is 210-263-3253. The show is a part of the Podcast City Network. Head on over to podcastcity.net and check out all the amazing podcasts on there. So that's going to do it for this episode, guys. Take care.